The following is a presentation of the Mat Talk Podcast Network.
It's time to go on the mat. The Cedar Valley's longest-running radio show devoted entirely to wrestling. Brought to you by Rolling Ford and the National Wrestling Hall of Fame Dan Gable Museum on 1650 The Fan.
Welcome to On the Mat. I am Kyle Klingman of the National Wrestling Hall of Fame Dan Gable Museum, along with officially Grundy County's finest, Doug Van Gelder. We're jacked.
Well, I'll tell you
jacked.
what, I was kind of jacked too, Kyle. I was pleased with the way that article came out, and
it's not
it mentioned all the people that met a lot, or not all the people, but a lot of people that influenced me in wrestling.
Well, the article we're talking about is by Jake Ryder. It's in the Grundy Register, and it came out, I think, last week. I don't know exactly the date.
Yeah,
but,
I think it was Thursday or
You can
Wednesday.
get a preview online. It's titled Van Gelder Broadcasts His Joy for Wrestling. And it's perfect because it's the Grundy paper, because we've talked about what an icon this guy is in Grundy County. Felix Grundy has nothing on this guy, Scott. Absolutely nothing. He could have founded the county, but Doug took it to a whole nother level. It's just like Gable.
It's his world, and we're all here in it.
Yeah. So a lot of great comments. It got posted on Facebook, of course, and your sons had some great comments, and they've shared it. I don't know if you get in on all that or knew that at all.
It's just amazing to me that, it's 31 years ago that I lived there. 31 years. That's incredible. And I know who put him on to me.
Who?
You.
I didn't.
Well, maybe it was Bob. That's right.
It could have been. They contacted me about how to get in touch with you. So clearly your legacy and legend is surpassing anything we could possibly understand. But what's neat is the picture is you either holding a peace sign or two for a takedown. So I don't know which, but I think that's the best part of it, is that we don't know which.
You never will.
Yeah. And it was at the World Championships. You're smiling big, but how much fun is that? And I don't know if you get a chance to reminisce in your head much about all these wrestling memories that you've had, but it's probably fun to actually talk about it.
Every week I do that.
Well,
something different every week. That's what's cool about it.
Yeah.
We've had a heck of a lot of experiences in this sport, and I've enjoyed every one of them.
Well,
except that long layover in Buffalo at the rest stop.
Well,
I'm still obsessed with that.
I know you are, and so are we. That's why we keep bringing it up on this show.
Yeah, I know, just to gouge me a little bit.
Yeah, well, I wish we could just spend the entire show just singing your praises, but I know you want to get on to other things. But it was fun reading the article. I hope people will take a opportunity. It's either on the Conrad Record. You can go there. You can go to the Grundy Register, which is the paper of choice that I would want it in. I think it's even bigger than the New York Times for me in this particular instance, because it's the Grundy paper. That's what I like. And, hey, real quick, I just wish I could have been there when your sister opens the paper and she has no idea the article about you is there, and she opens it and is like, "What's this?" Have no idea, and she's the one that told you that it ran and you didn't know.
I didn't know.
And so you didn't read it until I sent you the full article?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't.
What would your wife Ruth think?
I already told you that.
I know, but
She read it and said, "Oh, Kyle."
But I had nothing to do with it. All I did was provide feedback for the guy. So I'm thrilled that we had that, and I hope I can get a full copy of the paper based on what Jake Ryder, the author of the article. Sounds like he just moved to the area and got this job, and he knew how much wrestling means to the area, so he took it more serious, as well was actually a little nervous maybe about it, because he knows how serious people in this area take the wrestling.
I sent him a brief thank you, and he did a good job, I thought.
I did too. He did a real good job. And we have a good job of transitioning that into another great show. We have Chris Bono on the program. He's the head wrestling coach at South Dakota State. They're doing a fantastic job with that
He's got
program.
it going up there, doesn't he?
Man, just great stuff going. We get a chance to talk to him about the great things that are happening with that program. And then someone that you might not think of to be on the show, Adam Tirapelle was an NCAA champion for Illinois in 2001. actually wrestled Tony Davis in the 2000 NCAA tournament finals, and so that was Northern Iowa's most recent NCAA wrestling champion. So that's who he wrestled in the finals that year. So he placed third, second, and first throughout his career at Illinois, but now he's back out in California as an assistant coach at Clovis. So we get a chance to talk with Adam Tirapelle, get a different perspective from a different part of the country. From
California.
Yeah.
That's a vast, untapped area out there that we really do start needing to hear more about.
Yeah, so I'm thrilled.
You know, the fact that a state that big has one class only in wrestling, that's big news to me.
I know. I can't get over that, and we've talked about that periodically.
They got a state champion. You're a state champion.
Yeah,
period.
You're it.
And they don't qualify it with a 1A, 2A, 3A, 4A, 5A, whatever. It's cool.
Yeah, I like it. So that's why it's so hard to be a
Do they
four-timer.
have girls wrestling or women's wrestling there too?
You know, I think they might, and I actually wanted to talk about that because there was an article in the Register.
We'll have somebody to ask shortly today.
Who?
We can ask Tirapelle.
Oh, we can ask. Yeah, we can ask him. But was an article in the Des Moines Register about possibly adding female wrestling sanctioned at the Iowa high school state level. And so the person that would facilitate that is Jean Berger, who was an associate athletic director at the University of Northern Iowa. Her comment was, "I'm for anything that promotes female athletics." So I'm glad that she is on board, and I'm excited about that possibility. So if you know Jean Berger or you want to drop her an email and tell her that we want female wrestling in the state of Iowa, it only makes sense.
We better come up with an address or something for it.
I don't have it. I know. I should have.
I know. We'll get it. We'll get it.
We should get that. So just a nice email telling Jean that we'd like to see that happen because it's growing slowly in the state. We have some programs, but I think if you saw an outlet for it at a high level, like high school level, I think there would be more interest.
I think some of these colleges should be the first one to see who's going to go to the Division 1A, first 1A school that's going to have female wrestling.
Yeah. I don't know what it would look like. They would clearly have their own state wrestling championship. I don't know if it would go side by side with the men or the boys. If you'd have it at Hy-Vee Hall, I don't know how you'd do it, but let's try. Let's make it happen.
Find out what that needs to be done with that.
Yeah. Exciting possibility. So I'm glad that conversation's on the table and that we're at least talking about it and it's in print and people can digest it and think about it. Because if we're going to be the state that everyone's talking about for wrestling, we need to drive that agenda of having opportunities for females because they actually were the big part of bringing wrestling back on the Olympic front. So we need that. Now, I read an article, too, speaking of that. I want to make sure know it's legit. I saw it from one source, but it looks like in non-Olympic years, they're going to go to 10 weight classes and then 6 for the Olympic years, and then they'd have the 4 weight classes for the non-Olympic World Championships. That's a real positive if they do that.
That's a big plus.
Yeah, and so I want to learn more about how that's going to happen and what's going to happen. They actually listed weights of what that would be.
Probably happen about the same time we get rid of riding time at college.
Well, we could go all into that. That would be the rest of the show if we want to. And Nick Perler actually sent me a text.
You forwarded it to me, and that was he's got a legitimate point of view. Those are the rules as they stand now. What I'm saying about that is in the world of wrestling, if we want to have wrestling recognized on a national level, we have to win world championships. Not NCAA championships, world championships. And until the United States can do that consistently, I don't think our sport will ever take on major status.
Well, you might be right on that. I don't know. I'm not against riding time, but
the rest of the world wrestles. They don't have riding time.
They don't. But there's.
Well, I'm just saying,
I know.
I've been thinking about that because it just gets me wound up.
It's deep in your psyche about this, and I want to keep exploring this topic because it is the one area that makes college wrestling uniquely different from any style of the sport. Is that there is a point that gets for riding. 1 minute or more, you get a riding time point. So what's the alternative for Doug? It's no riding time. I think it's just that cut and dry. There is no alternative. I'd like to see it go even higher. if you can ride someone for 6 minutes, I think you should get 6 points. No, I'm not going to go that far, but I want to at least get your blood boiling a little bit.
Well, if
I want to get you going a little bit.
It means at least you got one takedown in there.
That's true.
It's true.
But we'll go back. Hey,
I've got other things I'd like to see done, so let's move on.
Yeah, but all this segues into the Oklahoma State meet. Did you watch it? The Oklahoma State. Okay, so
I did watch Michigan and Nebraska the other day, and that was an excellent. That Michik.
He's good.
Holy mackerel!
You like him?
He took out the Midlands champion.
Oh yeah.
He handled him like he'd never seen a takedown before.
Yeah, I saw that.
Wow.
And I'm assuming you did not go to the Nebraska-Penn State meet.
No.
Okay, didn't have a chance to.
Didn't even get down to see my granddaughters.
Oh, I didn't go down. So, but back to the riding time point. At 133 pounds, Cade Brock beat Corey Clark 7-6, and Corey Clark came in undefeated. So did Cade Brock. Cade Brock's a redshirt freshman. Corey Clark had the shoulder wrap on there, so he's not clicking at full strength. Clark looked good in the match. He got down. There was a questionable takedown call that Brock got, but there was a lot of controversy at the end of that match because of riding time. It was 59 seconds, and so when you go on something like that where you say, was it a second? You have human error. Did they get the clock?
Reaction time, the whole thing?
Yeah, to me, that's more of a legitimate point where you're coming from. Just the human error of, hey, this decided the match. One riding time point did. Is that one riding time point? One lack of riding time point because it was 59 seconds, so it could have been tied if Corey Clark would have had that minute of riding time. So it affected the outcome because it would have gone into sudden victory, and Corey Clark was coming on pretty strong in that match. And if I had to give someone the favorite as far as going into sudden victory, I would give it to Corey Clark. Other than that, though, up and down the lineup, it was 24-11. You look at a score like that and you say, wow, that's a blowout. Really wasn't.
No, it wasn't.
It was not a blowout.
Clark wins and Sorensen win, and it's a whole different meet.
Yeah, completely
Might
different.
even had a little more incentive to win at heavyweight if had that happened.
Yeah, Sam Stoll certainly could have won that. If you're looking at just domination, Preston Weigel didn't necessarily dominate, even though he won 6-0. It was tight going into the third period, no takedowns in the first. Chandler Rogers looked good against a backup in Skylar St. John. He got the fall. Great move there, a la Ben Askren. Looked just like it. And then I got to give credit to Sammy Brooks. Wow. I mean, you're talking about a guy that came in 6 going against the 5 and beat him 13-3. And I think those are the guys. Well, Gilman, of course, looked great at 125 pounds. Not great, looked good, won 12-4. But one of those guys where if you think you're going tight with him for 6 minutes, that last minute, you're in for a wake-up. Yeah, you don't. And that's
stepped off the cliff.
And that's right. Gilman is the prototype of what Iowa needs to do this season. They have one guy that's the prototype, and I think all Iowa guys need to focus on Thomas Gilman because he's the guy. He's doing things right, and he opens things up. And like I said, here's a match that was really close, and you think Piccinini could be in it for a while, and then Gilman just says, no, you're out of it, and he slams the door. Now, this weekend...
What was his score, 13-4?
12-4.
12-4, okay.
12-4 was the final. And so that was fun to watch and see that. So all of that being said goes into this Friday. We have Penn State against Iowa at Carver Hawkeye Arena. There's so many intriguing matchups there that are going to play out. Starting at 149 pounds, 125 is going to be great. But I want to see the following week. I'm excited to see what Corey Clark is going to do at 133 pounds against a returning NCAA champion from Ohio State. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
125.
125 2 years ago, and then got third last year. And so that's going to be a lot of fun. So there's a lot of great things. This is going to be a very tough run right now for the University of Iowa, going Oklahoma State, Penn State, Ohio State.
There is no learning curve here.
No, this is the meat of the season for dual meets for the University of Iowa.
This is where they go for their Big Ten seedings.
Yeah,
what happens in the next 2 weeks is going to determine a lot of how that shakes out.
Let's make sure we get to all of these in our opening segment. Northern Iowa won on criteria 17-16, so that means it was tied at the end of the
More match points, was that right?
More match points. And give Northern Iowa credit. They're wrestling a team that was ranked higher on the road, and these are all of the things that they didn't do last year and struggled with. As we've mentioned, they didn't win a home dual meet last year, but now they've got a team together, and they're putting some things together, and they're staying competitive. Because CMU is a tough team to beat.
Yeah.
They are just a tough,
they're usually
tough
steady,
team.
all the way across.
Absolutely.
Every weight.
It's a great way to talk about them. Dan Kelly from Cedar Falls had his first time in the UNI lineup at 157. Got beat by Colin Heffernan, who's actually a son of John Heffernan, not Jim, who was a former Iowa wrestler. So Dan Kelly's going to continue to get in there and make progress. So hopefully we see more out of him and see some progress out of Dan. Iowa State still only has one win on the season. They got beat by North Carolina 20-17. I guess there was some controversy in that particular dual meet. I don't know if you followed that at 125. There was a near fall that was called early in the first period. They went back and reviewed it, said it was an illegal hold, and so they actually went back to that time period, which I think was 2 minutes before in that particular period, and they re-wrestled that whole thing. And Iowa State
re-wrestled
lost.
it?
Yeah, they went back, not actually re-wrestled. They said, we're going to go back and we're going to start at that particular point in time.
Wow.
So right now, man, next week is going to be Northern Iowa at Iowa State. Even though you only have a team with one dual meet win, it really doesn't matter when it's Iowa State versus Northern Iowa. To go down to Hilton Coliseum is still going to be a big undertaking for Northern Iowa.
Is that next Sunday, you said?
Friday.
Friday.
So you have two big dual meets for the state of Iowa in one day. You have Northern Iowa at Iowa State, and you have Penn State at Iowa. So, man, I don't want to choose, but I'm going to the Iowa meet anyway. So
I think I'm going to go. I think I'm going to go to the Iowa State meet.
You're going to get down to it?
Well, I have to go to Des Moines this weekend to take care of Kale, so I think I might leave a little early and go down and check out that meet.
Yeah, it should be good. I think it's going to be a lot of fun to see how that one plays out, because Iowa State's always up for Northern Iowa.
Yeah, they are.
They are. I mean, because you have 3 Division I teams. You don't want to be the third D1 team. you don't, and because Northern Iowa's not on Iowa's schedule, you don't really get to find that out. But we go back to it. I still think there's years, and this may be one of those years, that there's a Wartburg or Grandview that is actually better than the Division I programs. And so this might be one of those years. I don't know. I would love to see a Grandview versus Iowa State or a Grandview versus Northern Iowa to play it out. Let the competition speak for itself, and we'll see how it plays out. We have a lot of fun with a coach that wrestled at Iowa State. He's doing a great job at South Dakota State. They're in the quote Big 12 now because the Western Wrestling Conference merged. That's Chris Bono. He's the head wrestling coach at South Dakota State. He's next on the mat.
24 hours a day, 7 days a week. When all you want is sports, all you need is 1650 The Fan.
We are back on the mat. 1650 The Fan. I'm Kyle Klingman of the National Wrestling Hall of Fame Dan Gable Museum, along with Doug Van Gelder. First guest is the head wrestling coach at South Dakota State University. He was an NCAA champion for Iowa State in 1996. He's with us. How are you, Chris Bono?
I'm doing awesome. Thanks for having me.
Hey, now, are you finally retired from competition?
I still got one more left in me.
Wait, and
one more tournament.
What is that tournament going to be? Is it going to be a Masters tournament or what?
Who knows? I don't know. You know, those. I'm not sure. I don't consider myself in that category yet. So I'm still always scouting these young guys to never know when I get my last opportunity.
So just kind of give us some. This is fun because if you're saying that it might happen, do you have an idea in mind, folk style, freestyle, or do you care?
I have no idea in mind.
Okay.
I don't know what would happen.
How about this? How about if we got Northern Iowa on the schedule and you and Schwab go at it one more time?
I'm in 110%.
You'd be in for it?
I'm in.
All right. We'll see if we can get the marketing people behind it.
That'd be a good one. That'd be a good one.
Now, hey, marketing is what you guys are doing really well, because when people talk about how to do things to market a program, a lot of people are talking about South Dakota State. Tell us about what you're doing to get the word out about your program and what you're doing.
Well, it's I've been doing it for when I first got the job. When I was trying to recruit, it was hard to recruit here because we were a program that was down in the dumps when I first got the job 5 years ago. So I took to social media to try to show our facilities, to try to promote our program, to do everything we could to not talk about where the program is right now, if that makes sense. And from there, it just took off. We started doing well social media-wise, and then we started winning some wrestling matches, started getting big recruits, and then it got to be, we're still wrestling in front of 150 fans. These kids deserve better. How do we start getting fans in the stands? And, we sit down every Monday morning at a staff meeting, and we figure out for the next match, how are we going to try to get 2,500 to 4,000 people in the stands? And we've got a great team behind us and great ideas. And once we hit the ground running with an idea, we don't stop until we accomplish what we want to do. And we've been real successful. Thank goodness I have a great administration who lets us do these things. And it's fun. We enjoy it. It's a big challenge. We challenge our ticket office. We challenge our marketing people. We challenge our assistant coaches, everybody. And it's been just wonderful. Our community is so awesome, and they love wrestling, and they come to our matches, and it's been a real big hit.
So where are you with getting crowd participation and crowd support? You getting a consistent 500, 1,000? Where are you on that scale?
I can tell you, I know the numbers right away. Iowa State, we did 1,800. Iowa, we did almost 4,100. And then we had Boise State in at close to 1,000, and then Northern Colorado in at close to 1,000. And so we're put it this way, our record was 1,080 at all time here at the University Division I era. So we broke that record twice, came close to it twice already this year. We still have Oklahoma and NDSU coming in town, which I know we'll do at least 2,000 for each of those.
How do you get more crowd participation? Because wrestling people sometimes they get in lulls and there's not enough action. And you've been around the Iranians enough that no matter what happens, they're going to be cheering and putting bells and whistles on it. How do we get more wrestling fans to be like that?
It's you got to put a good product out there. People don't want to see 2-1 matches, or they don't want to see guys standing around or laying on top of people. And and I think our guys wrestle hard, and they wrestle, and try to score a bunch of points. And we've got a couple of exciting guys out there with Seth Gross. Everybody wants to see Seth and how he's going to pin somebody. But the reason we're real successful right now is I've got great kids on this team who are known throughout our community, and I think that's why we're attracting people. I mean, I know we have a guy, we have a bunch of guys that work in the summertime for a carpet company, and and I saw the guy the other day at the match, and he wants to come on a trip with us because he has a vested interest in 12 of the guys that he employs in the summer. So it's very, very. I think it's a lot of our community has a vested interest in our kids, because they're out in the community doing great things, whether it's community service or, just hanging out, and they're great kids. Nobody's getting in trouble. And we're winning a few matches, and we're nationally ranked. And then the last part of it is we're bringing in great teams with tradition-rich cultures in wrestling, and our fans are very knowledgeable. They like to see good wrestling.
We are on the mat with Chris Bono, head wrestling coach at South Dakota State. 8-2 dual meet record. Had some big wins so far. You've had good competition. You've had Minnesota on the schedule, Iowa on the schedule, and then really, when you look at the 8 wins, it's been dominant. Even over the weekend, you beat Air Force 28-6, beat Wyoming 33-11, and as you talk about building that product and success breeding success, do you feel like the guys feel like there's momentum going into the NCAA tournament right now?
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And then we'll see really where we are this weekend when we head down to Oklahoma State and wrestle those guys. But we've got guys that believe they can be national champions, and we haven't had that much around here in my first 4 years. And you know what? It's about expectations. When you have guys in your wrestling room that really believe they can be NCAA champions, that rubs off on the guy below them, the guy above them. His workout part. So now we're getting guys in there that really think they can be national champions. The 4 years before, the 3 years before I was here, we had guys that just wanted to be the best guy in the wrestling room. And, and then the next guy was like, well, I'm the second best guy in the wrestling room. Well, that in the grand scheme of things, it's about the expectations you have in your wrestling room. And right now, my guys in that wrestling room believe they can be national champions and All-Americans. And, and we keep pumping them up. And the confidence they get each match, each practice, each film, each time we sit down and watch film and see their mistakes, where they do well, they really believe they can go down to St. Louis and be a national champion.
What do you do for the pre-meet product and the post-meet product? Because I think a lot of times that's the most important part, that you want to make sure that there's a sense of community and you do something after. Do you guys have post-meet socials that you do?
Well, it's just a given here. We go down to our local bar and grill, Clovis. We don't even have to promote it. That's what we do. Okay. Everyone goes down there. But, we do a lot of, our promotions are what people wear. We actually make the connect. We actually connect with our fans and all that throughout the week, the 2 weeks that we actually promote our event. Our last event was one of the best ones we've ever done. We had a community, and we called it a local business night. And we went out to, a bunch of local businesses and said, hey, we're having a little competition. Whoever wins, whoever gets the most fans in the stands through your company, whether it's buying tickets or whether promoting it, and everybody else buys tickets under your company, we're going to have a little social before in our arena before the Oklahoma match. We will give you free tickets to that Oklahoma match, depending on how many you buy. Meaning, if you buy 100 tickets, we'll give you 100 for the Oklahoma match. And then you can come in the locker room before the match, hear the pregame speech, see the guys, what they do to eat and all that, and then see the postgame speech afterward. And it was a huge turnout, and we made the connectivity with these people beforehand. So when we did see them afterward or beforehand, it was already a relationship that we had. So that was one of our things that we did that was very successful.
How much has it helped your program to be part of the Big 12 now?
It's huge. It's not only our wrestling program, but it's our university. I said this once before. I think when the president was watching a football game on a Saturday night, and I saw him, and he was fired up that during one of the timeouts or something, the Big 12 ran a commercial, and we were wrestling somebody, Oklahoma, and he saw the South Dakota State singlet with the Big 12 commercial. That's nationwide. You know what I mean? And that was a big deal. So not only does it help our program, but it's helping our athletics department as well as our university.
Now, you mentioned Seth Gross earlier, and he's your best wrestler right now on the team. Are guys looking to him as the example in the program?
Well, you know what? We've got, in terms of results and work ethic and wanting to win, they are looking at him. But you know what? I've got 6 or 7 guys in there that everyone looks up to. It's not just one guy. Some days if Seth has a bad workout or there's 6 or 7 guys that are on him to get better. It's not just he's our guy. And that's what I really love about these guys. We are a tight-knit group, and I don't say that lightly. I don't say that unless we really are. So I don't really think we have one guy. In terms of results, yeah, Seth's our leader. But I'm telling you, man, if Seth ever doesn't do what he's supposed to do in terms of working hard, we got 6 guys that are going to jump him and bring him up to the level that he needs to be at and remind him of his goals and where he wants to be. And that's what I'm really the most proud about. It's and everybody needs that. Even if you are the leader on the team, some days you are going to, if you're going to slack back, and you need someone to pick you up. And we've got 6 or 7 of those guys that aren't afraid to be a leader.
On the mat with Chris Bono, head wrestling coach at South Dakota State University, also an NCAA champion for Iowa State in 1996. A lot of people have told me that you did everything right at Iowa State. You went to bed early, you got up early, and that you were really the prototype of what an athlete should be and how you should have the course to win an NCAA championship. Do you see guys doing what you did in college and really paying the price to put in the work to become an NCAA champion?
Well, I do now. At this program, I gave them my example. And then I've got 2 of my assistant coaches that's what they did in college, too. That's why we get along so great. We know what it took to win NCAA titles, and it wasn't staying up late, and it wasn't running around going to parties, and it wasn't, eating bad. It was you have to live the life, 12 months a year. You only have 5 years to do this. And you've got to live your life like a champion on and off the mat, in and out of restaurants, in and out of classrooms, study halls, everything. And, that was the one thing I did. I wasn't the best wrestler in the world, but I knew how to outwork people, and I knew how to live my life right. I knew how to treat people. And that's what we've got in this program now, and our culture is unbelievable. And you know, I just give them my story, and I give these guys my example. We don't look to other people and other programs. We've got 3 guys here between myself, Coach Reeder, and Coach Shop that have lived the life and have been good people and have done the right things. And we share our story with these guys and give them the roadmap is what I call it. We have a program, a roadmap. You want to follow the roadmap? Here's how you become a national champion, and you got to follow it.
Going back to high school, didn't you have a historic tie with Kerry Colott?
I did. The Dapper Dan. I don't know what they call it now. Pittsburgh Classic is what it was called back then.
Do people still bring that up to you?
All the time. And,
do they?
Yeah, all the time. And Colott and I are good buddies. So it's kind of funny. When we people bring it up when we're together a lot too, and we laugh about it. But the funniest thing about it was we wrestled again in 2008 at the Olympic trials. That's the only time we ever wrestled again.
Yeah.
And so that was 16 years apart. And in between those 16 years, we slept at each other's houses and we trained with each other. And, it was a good, healthy rivalry and a great relationship we have after we're done competing. You
were a finalist for the Northern Iowa head wrestling coaching job. What were your thoughts when you didn't get that job? I was hurt. You know what I mean? At the time, I wanted to be in Iowa. You know what I mean? I was hurt bad. That one hurt bad, to tell you the truth. I've had a lot of losses in my life per se, but that one hurt. You know what I mean? I considered myself an Iowan. I'd been there forever. I represented Iowa State. I coached there for 10 years, 11 years after I came back, and you know what I mean? I thought it was a good fit at the time for me. But you know what? The good Lord works in mysterious ways, and I didn't get the job for a reason, and Schwab's doing a heck of a job there, and I'm lucky enough to land in a place that I absolutely love and work for an administration that I actually love, and the kids on the team that I love, and the people I work with are the best, and so it was a blessing in disguise for me not to get that job and be able to land here in South Dakota State. You were at Tennessee Chattanooga for a while. Was that a good fit when you were there? Because it seems like it would be, because you're from Florida and it's pretty close to where you grew up. Did that work well for you while you were there? I did. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed my time there. And again, the people down there made it what it was all about. The boosters down there are just unbelievable. Our AD, Rick Hart, was there before moving on to SMU. He was awesome to work for. The kids were great. The area, and really you wouldn't think about Tennessee or Chattanooga, but it's a hotbed for wrestling right in that area in Chattanooga. You got Saudi Days, you got Cleveland, you got Bradley High Schools. It was great. And the best part about it was I enjoyed the area. The mountains, the rivers, the outdoor stuff was awesome. And I was 5 hours from Jacksonville, my hometown. So it was awesome. On the coaching side of it and the recruiting side of it, it was very, very, very hard. You know what I mean? Because I had those Iowa ties, and I was recruiting in Iowa. We were bringing kids down to visit from Iowa, and, you just couldn't get those kids out of Iowa. And, I made a lot of mistakes recruiting because I thought I could get those kids. And, but we had great teams down there. We won the Southern Conference every year I was there. And, we finished 20th in the country one year, and it was a great, great experience for me. You had Iowa on the schedule this year. I'd love to see Northern Iowa get on the schedule. How does that happen? They owe us a date. As soon as they say yes, they're on our schedule. Okay. And so as soon as they want to come into Frost Arena, they're in. That's it. You know what I mean? They kind of took us off the schedule. We visited there last, honestly. They didn't take us off. We fulfilled, our home and home, and then I told, it was their turn to come here. And, it didn't work out for whatever reason. But they called me tomorrow and said we want back on. They come into Frost Arena, and that's where we'll do it. How did you get Iowa on the schedule? Because that was great, and that's great for the sport to get Iowa out there. They're always going to bring a crowd. Yeah, no, I love those guys. I love the Brands brothers. I get along with those guys, and I've had a great relationship with them, going back to 96, 97, 2000 when I got out of college, and I got to actually work out with those guys and train for the Olympics. So I've always stayed in touch with those guys, and I want experiences for my kids. My kids, I wanted them in Carver Hawkeye Arena because if you're going to win a national title, if you're going to have to wrestle in front of those kind of crowds. And I told Tom, hey, let's do it. We'll come there first, and as long as you can find the time to come back, I think it's going to be great for everybody. And it was great. We went there, and it was a great experience for our guys, and then them coming back, and our little town of Brookings getting to pack our gym with 4,200 people or something like that was awesome. And
I think that we have a product, where we can compete with those guys, and I think it's a healthy relationship and a healthy rivalry. And I'm going to talk to them again, and hopefully they'll keep us on the schedule, and we can come back out there next year.
I remember you and Terry Brands working out quite a bit. What was that like working out with Terry Brands?
Well, it was awesome. I think I've always competed against those guys. If you think about it, Kyle, always, whether it was coaching, whether it was trying to beat McElroy, and then trying to beat Gaddick, and then always throughout college and then throughout internationally. So when I got a chance, we'd always be at the training center, and Gable would grab me and say, "Hey, Brands wants to work out with you." And then it was, okay, I'd go over there and we'd work out, and the practice would be over, and we'd keep working out. And the good thing was I feel like I brought the best out of Terry Brands socially. Afterward, we'd get in a sauna together. You know what I mean? When he was training, I remember it very, very, very. It's one of my best memories of Terry Brands, when we'd get in the sauna after practice when he was training for the Olympics in 2000, and be him and I just having a conversation, man, family, friends, hobbies, things like that, not even wrestling. And if people get to know Terry Brands outside of the competitive Terry Brands, man, he's a great guy. And I got that relationship as a friend with those guys, and I think that I earned a little bit of respect because I wouldn't stop wrestling, and I'd keep their pace, and I'd wrestle with them. And then I'll never forget going to the Olympic Games in 2004 in Athens, and Tom and I always working out, getting up early. We'd go for a run together. We'd sauna. And then we'd wrestle a little bit with each other, and it got to be just a healthy friendship. Even though we were never really close to each other because we were always trying to beat each other. So you take the competitiveness out of all of us, and you could put us all in a room, and every one of us would get along. So it's and that's what I think I brought out in those guys. They felt relaxed and comfortable around me, and I love being around them. So it was a healthy deal. Chris,
we've enjoyed this. We appreciate having another program. We'll do it again. All the best. You're having a great season.
All right, thanks for having me.
Right, that was Chris Bono. Up next, we have Adam Tirapelle, NCAA champion, next on the mat.
Log on and listen online at 1650thefan.com, the online home of 1650 The Fan.
Are back on the mat, 1650 The Fan. I'm Kyle Klingman of the National Wrestling Hall of Fame Dan Gable Museum, along with Doug Van Gelder. We go all the way out to California for this one.
Fantastic.
I like that because they have one high school state wrestling tournament, and that's it. So if you win a state championship in California, it means a lot. We have someone who can fill us in on all of that. He's an assistant coach at Clovis High School with his dad, and he was also an NCAA champion for Illinois in 2001, runner-up at the NCAA tournament in 2000, also third place in 99. His name's Adam Tirapelle. He's with us. How are you, Adam?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Hey, tell us about this California high school state wrestling tournament because it is so big. I think it's a 48-man bracket, and it's one class. You grew up with it. What's it like going through that bad boy?
Yeah, it's a long. I mean, sheer population. I mean, we have 40 million people in California, so there's about 900 high schools I think with wrestling. There's more, but some of them don't have wrestling. So you go through this, about a four, depending on the area you're in, a 3 or 4 step qualifying process. And right now the tournament's 40. I think they're going to expand it again to 48, but. Yeah, it's a grind to get there. There's a lot of good kids, and it is it's very difficult to win. If for no other reason than not just the quality competition, but just not having anything happen week after week. Make weight, skin, all the things that can knock you out. You have to be on top of your game. Week after week for 4 weeks in a row.
Now you are from California. You went to Illinois. How did that happen?
Kind of by chance. Met Coach Johnson at the Junior Nationals way back in the day. And the funny story there is my dad, who, if anybody knows my dad, he just goes up and starts talking to people. So he went up and just started talking to Coach Johnson. And then later, Johnson tells us that I didn't even know who this guy was and why he's talking to me. But, we're good friends now. And he was talking to him, and my dad was talking. I was going to wrestle T.J. Williams coming up. And Dad was kind of asking about, TJ, like, hey, this kid from Illinois, he's supposed to be pretty good. And I think Johnson said something to the effect, if your kid can even compete with him, I'll be impressed. And I ended up losing, but it was 8-7 at the very end. And that was pretty much it. And I was interested in going there, for school and wrestling, and they recruited me. Long story short, I ended up going to Stanford. I thought it was a better fit, with the academics and everything. It wasn't a better fit. I was there a year. I decided to go to Illinois, where I originally wanted to go. They still had room for me. They took me, and the rest is history.
No, it's pretty interesting, especially if you look at that 1999 NCAA tournament. So you're from California, you go to Illinois, and then the top four placers. So you had T.J. Williams win it, who's from Illinois, the Chicago area. Mm-hmm. You had Tony Davis, who went to Northern Iowa from that area, Illinois, and then you beat Reggie Wright for third, fourth. He's from that area in Illinois, and then you actually are Illinois there. I'm assuming you made that connection, that was kind of a neat little quadrangular there with you guys.
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting. We always, wrestle each other. Growing up, wrestle each other around the same weight classes. And Reggie was scheduled to go there too. He ended up not going there, and then went to junior college, came with TJ, and TJ ended up at Iowa, and Reggie ended up at Oklahoma State, and Tony was a couple times junior college national champ, and ended up in Northern Iowa. So yeah, it was quite the level of talent in the Illinois area for those weight classes. Especially
at 149, when you think of Mike Zadek was there. We talked about those guys from Illinois. You had Jared Lawrence. When you think about that era, especially at 149, where it was so tough, I'm assuming you had to prepare for a lot of diversity in talent and a lot of diversity in execution of technique. Yeah, I mean, we had some incredible athletes at that weight class, and those guys were so hard to wrestle. I still think the best athlete I've ever wrestled was Tony Davis. And TJ was awesome. And Jamar Billman, doesn't get mentioned, and he was a phenomenal athlete. And, lots of guys, right in that area. But Tony was like ridiculous. It was just, it was impossible to wrestle him. I mean, it was just like try to hold on, hope he gets a little bit tired, and then, then he becomes like more of a normal human. Still not completely normal, but he was just impossible to stop for, the first 2 or 3 minutes. We are on the mat with Adam Tirapelle, an assistant coach at Clovis High School, NCAA champion for Illinois in 2001. You won that NCAA tournament at Carver Hawkeye Arena in 2001. What do you remember about the atmosphere and being part of that NCAA tournament?
Boy, I mean, it was the last one on a college campus at Iowa. I'd only wrestled at Iowa one time previous to that, and I got beat pretty good by Zadek. And so, but I was looking forward to it. I mean, it was my senior year. I'd come really close to being a champ. I knew I could win it. I lost to Jared Lawrence, who was one of my kind of big rivals, 2 weeks or a week and a half, whatever, before at the Big Ten, and we were seeded 2 and 3. But I mean, it's so close at that level. I think there's so many people that can win going in. You just got to put match after match together. Get a little luck and make it happen. And that's kind of what I remember. And I knew I'd have to wrestle him again most likely, and we did in the semifinals. And I beat him after he beat me pretty good the 2 weeks previous to that. And then I wrestled Dave Esposito in the finals. He was always he was interesting. Dave would do really well. He would just hammer guys that would give me a hard time, but I did pretty well against him. So again, styles, the old styles make matches or fights, and so that that worked out, and we had a good match in the finals. And I beat him.
You're still coaching at the high school level as an assistant coach. You work at Wells Fargo, but I get the feeling that you're a guy that's a wrestling junkie. You're following this all the time. How do you kind of stay current in the sport of wrestling and make sure that you're all in for this?
Well, I mean, I watch a lot. Not everybody who's a great, by no means a great wrestler compared to some of these other guys, but anybody who's had success, it doesn't mean they're a wrestling fan. But I've always been a fan. I think about the sport. Obviously, I coach, but I try to think of it from a higher level. How do we push the sport forward? What things do we need to continue to grow? We've done some things out here just at the high school level. Creating big matches and just trying to do things that I think are important for the sport. And so, I think those two things, just being a fan, going and watching at the college level, appreciating, and then of course the international level. But then trying to see, what can we do to continue to make the sport better for wrestlers, coaches, fans, and make sure it's around for another 50 years.
What can we do at the high school level? Because participation is declining. Even here in Waterloo, we struggle even getting full lineups and full teams. How can we negate that and make sure that we have a strong sport for the next 50 years?
Well, I mean, some of it I think it's out of our control a little bit. I mean, society and the way, the way things have evolved over the years. I mean, kids are just, there's other things to do. I think they're, a little bit softer than they used to be. And kids just aren't as interested. They're not as interested in doing things that are really difficult because if, they don't have immediate success, they just go to something else. So that, I think that part is out of our control. We see it out here, even at our team, which is pretty good. We had a ton of kids quit this year for various reasons, but it's back to the old thing. If it just doesn't go your way, you don't try to dig in and fight through it. You just quit. You do something else. So that part's out of our control. But I think at the high school level, like I don't know exactly what Iowa high school wrestling is like, but in California, it's very individual based, and I think that's a mistake. And it starts at the youth level, and I think it's a mistake. I mean, it just becomes just a bunch of, basically youth dads running around with their kid, and there's never any team aspect. We don't do, I think it goes to dual meets. We don't ever do dual meets. Those are kind of a dying breed. And, that's something that a parent or a fan can sit through and really enjoy. I mean, the biggest attendance we have, even at the college level, is for dual meets. Now, the NCAAs is well attended, but remember, every school is there. It's every school in the country. So it doesn't even, I mean, you look at the number of fans that will come to that Iowa-Penn State duel this week versus, and just the Iowa fans. Look at the number of Iowa fans that will come to that duel versus the number of Iowa fans that will come to the Nationals. It's just not even close. So I think, we need to do more with dual meets and promoting those at the youth level and shorter wrestling. We talk about making things events instead of just wrestling matches. It's not enough just to roll out the mat and have a referee. People just, they're not entertained by that anymore. We're competing for finite entertainment time and dollars, and you have to make things fun for people. And if you do that, then they seem to enjoy it more and come.
We are on the mat with Adam Tirapelle, NCAA champion for Illinois in 2001 and assistant wrestling coach at Clovis in California. And as we talk about the product and we talk about youth wrestling, are we too competition obsessed too early in the United States? Yeah,
of course. I mean, I think everybody would agree with that. Everybody who I talk to or even wrestle at a high level, it's right away. It's awards and trophies and collecting them. And believe me, all the people that agree with this are competitive, and they're super competitive. So it's not about not being competitive. It's, there's too much, and this is at every sport. It's not just wrestling. Every sport. Like I was talking about this the other day, that, you should be practicing 10 times for every one time you compete. And if you look at travel soccer or softball or whatever sport you want to look at, it's like 2 practices during the week and then you go play all weekend, Saturday and Sunday. It's about competition because that's what parents like, because that way they can see, if they're getting first place or second or third rather than just practicing. And I think that's a big part of it. We try to spend more time, working on skills, which is a much more reasonable amount of time. Like in the off season for our team, we spend a lot of time just doing practice, and they're short practices, 90 minutes. You practice for an hour and a half, come in, try to get better, do things, get out. Don't go spend all weekend sitting in a gym to wrestle 2 or 3 matches.
What's the overall solution then here in the United States to get away from that?
To get away from the competition, I don't know how you do it, because it's sort of a vicious cycle. I mean, that's what parents want. It's, the organizers, they make money on it. So, they like it because you throw them and people come and pay you money. And I don't know how you get away from it. But from a sport perspective, what's better for you is, getting together and practicing. And that costs very little. All right. But, and if you find kids that are good, get together and practice with them. I mean, you don't know how many people from here will fly all the way out to Tulsa Nationals or drive all the way up to Reno, which isn't close, and they'll wrestle somebody that's literally 5 miles away from them, or 10 miles. And those are better kids. And it's like, you flew all the way across the country to Tulsa to wrestle people that are 30 minutes away. maybe, why not get together and practice? Because then you get to wrestle for 2 hours rather than 6 minutes. And you get a lot better that way.
All right, I'm assuming you're going to be at the NCAA tournament in St. Louis. Let's get you on the record. Who's going to win the NCAA tournament this year as a team?
Boy, Oklahoma State looks pretty good. Obviously, they're solid. But my kid's at Penn State, and I like the way they're wrestling. Nick Nevels was our wrestler, and boy, talk about guys that can score. I mean, I think they're probably maybe they're not the favorite, but they're gonna put a lot of guys in the top 2 or 3 and score a lot of bonus points. So if I had to pick, I think Penn State will win.
All right. So how do you watch wrestling out there in California? Of course, there's great online access, but are you following it all the time, or are people out in California watching and getting this footage?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if everybody is. It's pretty disconnected out here just because we don't have a lot of college programs. But the real fans follow it. I mean, now with Big Ten Network and their online subscription, of course, Flow Wrestling is huge, and the various. I mean, there's things on TV as well, other channels. So yeah, I mean, I think we get to watch quite a bit if you want to. So that helps you follow the sport and stay in tune with what's going on.
All right, we've enjoyed having you on the program. Let's make sure that we get this back on again because we need California perspective, and hopefully we will see you in St. Louis, I assume.
Sounds good. Thanks, you guys.
All right, appreciate it. That was Adam Tirapelle, assistant wrestling coach from Clovis, and a lot of fun to pick his brain a little bit and get more info about what goes on on the West Coast.
I agree with him a lot, understanding where he was coming from about it's just the dad and the wrestler, and that's all they do right now. I think probably the most successful thing that I've ever was a part of was just keeping we'd take a bus to tournaments, let those kids make their own team, and they enjoyed each other a lot.
Yeah, and I think the most successful programs, even despite rankings, I love it when you see a full team.
Yep.
I saw Dubuque Hempstead come to Waterloo East, and they had a full JV team, they had a full varsity team, and that's a mark of a good program because regardless of where you are, you're still building these guys through the sport. So that's a special thing to do, and it's becoming more rare and rare. It's a rare thing to get that full lineup. So congratulations to any coach that has full JV, full varsity. It's been a fun show. We had Chris Bono did a great interview, and it's really great to talk with Adam Tirapelle. For Doug Van Gelder, I'm Kyle Klingman.
You've been listening to On the Mat, the Cedar Valley's longest-running radio show devoted entirely to wrestling. Brought to you by Rolling Ford and the National Wrestling Hall of Fame Dan Gable Museum on 1650 The Fan.
This show is part of the Mat Talk Podcast Network. For more wrestling podcasts, head over to MatTalkOnline.com.